YouTube, thank you for tuning in again, and welcome to episode 2 of the history of Witchfire. Today we're gonna dive into version 0.2, the Ghost Galleon update, which marked a huge step in the direction of the game we now have. When you fired up the game after almost 6 months, you would see that a lot of things had changed. When you moved to the workshop mirror for your research, you would recognize that you needed something called Gnosis. So what the hell was that? With the introduction of 4 stages of Gnosis, the difficulty was now detached from the player level, making it much easier for beginners to get warm with the harsh world of Witchfire. With still only 2 maps, we now had a difficulty split between the Iron Gate Castle, which was our endgame map, and the Scarlet Coast, which difficulty was kept at Gnosis 2. If you increased Gnosis to 4, the Scarlet Coast would stay the same, so you would still be able to outlevel, which was not possible before that. Besides the Gnosis change, another major issue with the game was the Calamity system. As this was always one of the most controversial topics, we got the Calamity bar as an indicator when we would get struck with the next Calamity. The punishment would not come out of nowhere anymore, but mistakes would be indicated with an increase of the Calamity meter. A great addition into the game in my opinion. But also with the downside that the Calamity could now be abused and used to your own advantage, rather than being a meaningful way of the witch to end your life. Additionally, the Calamity kill requirements got reduced and new Calamities were introduced. One almost forgotten Calamity, which was introduced with the GGU, is the castle's boss now, the Diemacher. But the biggest change was done to the elemental system, for me the core combat element of the game. Can you believe that there was a time when elemental effects always had the same effect or strength? Yep, that was the case in 0.1, when fire damage always meant a 25% increase in damage, and decay ticks have always been 5 damage per tick. Have a look at this comparison between 0.1 Blight Cyst and Book of Serpents. In 0.1, every source of decay would deal 5 damage per tick. With the Ghost Galleon update, however, the elemental system was changed drastically. In fact, now every item in the game had its own elemental values, giving the devs a tool to balance gear and making every item more impactful. Imagine that nowadays, with the possibility to influence the arcanas we get by selecting the right prophecies. Oh man, arcana like Doomsday Clock would be completely broken. So that changed for the better with the Ghost Galleon update. With the GGU, gold also became a major factor in the game. It actually became so important that the community made large efforts to find the best way to farm gold. And yeah, I made several guides and shorts on how to acquire gold in a very efficient way too. First off, before you could start a research, you would need quite the amount of gold to start the research. For example, a 3rd level incantation would cost you 40 gold, which was quite a lot back then. But luckily, the devs gave us better ways to acquire incantations now. More on that later. With the Ghost Galleon update, the game also got a new shooting star, a gun that conquered the hearts of all players in an instant: Hangfire. And with Cornucopia, a new combo was born. The gun was so strong, and let's be honest, it was broken, that you could farm bosses and elite enemies like no other. With the addition of Hypnosis, another community favorite, the Ghost Galleon update might have had the biggest impact on today's Witchfire. And we got one of my favorite spells in the game, considered quite weak, but just another candidate for massive abuse: Ice Stiletto. And last but not least, we got a few new toys that would definitely be missed today. I mean, can you imagine a world without Inferno? Inferno? What? Yeah, that's how Burning Stake was called in the patch notes and how it was introduced into the game. Burning Stake was not available to us in 0.1. With the introduction of mirages into the world of Witchfire, you could finally grab Burning Stake from the Iron Gate Castle bridge. We also saw a huge balance to Iron Cross and especially Henbane, which was without doubt the strongest fetish for a very long time, and maybe still is. But back in 0.1, Henbane was a cheat death powerhouse with massive abuse abilities, making this a no-brainer for every loadout. So this got a little rebalance as well, but it was still almost best in slot. The Collector brought us ammo packs and other nice tools, such as the Broken Mirror, or maybe the most potent item so far, the Foul Stimulant, which would boost your runs to millions of Witchfire. Look at those two examples. Then we got multiple save games or profiles, the so-called prayer classes. Only hardcore players would now choose the Penitent, the 0.1 starting class, while others could now choose from 6 different starting classes. The community always discussed which starting class was best, without coming to a mutual agreement on the topic. So let me know in the comments which was your favorite starting class. We also got the first 2 vaults, and the patch also introduced in-game events, such as the Drowned Captain and the Hunt, which would roam the map and give the player some ammunition when they died. That also reduced the amount of ammo chests from 3 to 2, but that was alright. Ammo would now be a much less rare resource than it was in 0.1. But maybe the best thing was that bosses and the events now dropped incantations. So you would not have to spend a lot of gold for the research, but could instead farm the Fallen Liberator or the Shield Bearer for gold and incantations. The importance of the update also shows in the amount of blog posts prior to the update. You can see and read how the devs iterated through each game system and how hard they worked on improving the game. The GGU brought a lot of players back to Witchfire, and I think the game saw a huge spike in content creation too. Guns like Hangfire and Falling Star brought so much abuse potential that people contested in the most absurd ways to kill the galley slave in its castle. Great times and the foundation for the things to come with all the future updates. As I said, in my opinion, this patch shaped the future of Witchfire like no other update did in the future. There have been hefty patches, but no patch shaped the core mechanics more than the Ghost Galleon update did. Overall, I was more than happy with the patch. Even though it didn't bring a new map, understandable since the core mechanics needed to be tweaked first, the update brought a lot of balance into the game. With the vaults and the new gear and the changes to the elemental system, the replayability profited a lot. And last but not least, the spike in attention and community building was fundamental for the future. That's it for today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and see you next time. As always, have a good one.